Good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of homeopathic mud remedy. Since last two lectures, we were discussing a very important polycrest, that is Calcarea Carbonicum, a great antisoric remedy proved by Dr. Samuel Hahnemann. In fact, this remedy has multiple dimensions. Everywhere, every system it acts, and being a part and parcel of our constitution, it is one of the important constitutional remedy, and we have discussed many aspects of it. We have discussed the constitution, a leucophlegmatic temperament and a constitution, fat, fair, flabby, with large head, open fontanelles, sweaty head, sweaty occiput, with a typical obesity in the young generation, obesity in young girls, obesity in women, and many other things, the confusion of the state of mind, the insecurity which happens to be there in the mind of the persons. There is a fear that people will observe her mental confusion. All those things which we have discussed in length in yesterday's lecture, and few cases also we have discussed on day one. Today we have to conclude this Calcarea card, but it is just a concluding the only part which is given by Allen. We have to understand Calcarea from different books. Allen is the big where you can recollect the material medica. That's why we are discussing the Allen first. As time permits, we'll learn it also from the different books also. But till that period, we'll continue with Allen, and we have finished the paragraph that is diseases arising from defective assimilation, imperfect ossification, difficulty in learning to walk or stand. Children have no disposition to walk and will not try. Suppress sweat. This on this part we have finished yesterday. Let us go ahead what he says about the Calcarea. Rawness of soles of feet from perspiration, like graphite piece, like a sanicula, like a silicium. This remedy has a thickened skin of the soles. That rawness is because of the easy perspiring feet, but not that offensive which you get in silica. Here, blisters and offensive foot sweat is there, but that offensiveness is rather different in Calcarea and rather different in silica. Silica, you can catch that very easily. Even patient removes the shoes, removes the socks. That typical sting comes, that is of a silica more common. Longing for fresh air when in a room. This is very important. Longing for fresh air whenever a patient is sitting inside the room, he longs for air. He wants a free air, which inspires, benefits, and strengthens. They feels better because of open air. They feels better when the windows are open, like a pulsatilla, like a sulfur, like allium cepa. Allium cepa feels better in open air. Coldness. This is the chilly remedy. Coldness, general of single parts like calibichromicum. Coldness of head, coldness of stomach, coldness of abdomen, coldness of feet and legs. With coldness, there is an aversion to cold open air. Coldness is there, but the aversion to cold open air goes right through her. So cold air goes right through her. Very sensitive to cold and damp air, and suffers because of the acute upper or lower respiratory tract infections. Great liability to take cold. It is opposite to sulfur. Great liability to take the heat is sulfur. The great liability to take cold means persons are very easily affected because of cold environment. They cannot tolerate the air of AC. They immediately suffer from upper respiratory tract infections, or they generally start sneezing over there, watering from the nose generally, or very occasionally they start getting the irritation in the throat and cough. So these are very typical features with which these patients approaches to you. Basically, the infants very commonly. Infants and children, they are very sensitive cold and they gets often on disease because of this. And this is what their parents tells us. So this is one of the important remedy which you can very easily prescribe. Patient tells doctor whenever he used to bath over the head, next day he suffers with the coryza. Next, immediately he suffers from the coryza. Immediately he starts running nose. Calcarea carb is a very important remedy in such type of issue. So we have to understand what exactly goes right through her, means every type of cold affects them. Then sweat. See, the coldness is of a single part. The sweat is of a single parts. Sweat of a single parts. Sweats on head. Sweats on scalp. Scalp becomes wet. It becomes cold. Sweats on the nape of neck. Whenever the child lies down, the pillow gets completely wet. Sweats on chest, axilla, sexual organs, hands and feet. This is like a sepia. On the genital organs, whenever sweating is there and that has a sweetish smell, it is of a thuja. That you can catch, that is of a thuja. Nature is of thuja. Here there is sweating which is little bit offensive, not so stinky like the which you can get in silica. Pit of the stomach swollen like an inverted saucer. So it comes up, that is inverted saucer, and painful to pressure. It is because of little bit indigestion. The upper part of the abdomen feels full. Indigestion producing this feature over there. Uremic or other diseases brought on by standing on cold, damp pavements, or working while standing in cold water. So many complaints they are aggravated because of the standing on cold water. Many things gets aggravated whenever they goes into the cold damp climate. The recent climate is very common. We used to think of brushstrokes as an acute, but the things when repeats again and again, and it aggravates during this weather. Think of the Calcarea again and again. Calcarea plays very vital role in such types of cases. If it is old problem, chronic problem, and recurrent problem, aggravated because of cold damp weather, cold damp basements, or standing on cold or in cold water, the Calcarea is one of the important remedy. Modelers or workers in cold clay. So those who used to work with the cold clay, those who used to stand in cold, those who used to get affected because of the cold or they remains in cold environment and suffers from rheumatic complaints, suffers from upper respiratory tract infection, suffers from lower respiratory tract infection. More commonly the rheumatic complaint, they gets aggravated in the Calcarea. Feels better in every way when constipated. This is the only remedy which directly explains that they likes constipation. They never have a problem. They never suffers from constipation. They enjoys their constipation because it remains the children are brought to you and this is that he gets stools once in a week. This is because because of two things. First, inactivity of rectum. Second important thing is that there is the stools are quite hard. Stools has to be removed mechanically because it is too hard, like aloes, like sanicula, like selenium, like sepia, like silicia, like thuja. The stool should be removed mechanically. Painless hoarseness. See, hoarseness is there, but it is not painful. It is not acute inflammatory. Acute inflammatory hoarseness always develops because of acute laryngitis and associated with the pain inside the throat. Here it is chronic, generally doesn't have a pain, but patient talks in hoarse voice. This is how it happens, but they never have it never looks them. You cannot find it out a pain on their face. And this is interesting in case of Calcarea. Aggravated hoarseness is aggravated in the morning. Basically, the upper and lower respiratory tract affections, both of them gets aggravated in the morning. Morning aggravation, after bathing aggravation, after getting cold draft aggravation. This is very characteristic of this remedy. So we have to understand Calcarea with all those aspects, and these keynotes gives you a very clear idea about the Calcarea thought. And last point which he mentions over there is desire to be magnetized, like a phosphorus, like a silicia also. We have discussed on that day desire for magnetized or magnetism ameliorated. Desire to be magnetized means they like to be under influence of someone who is better than them. They like their thoughts. They like their hold on over them also. That is the desire to be magnetized. They gets overwhelmed with such thoughts. That is the desire to be magnetized. And this is Calcarea. Calcarea always likes. Calcarea is insecure inside. Calcarea is little bit less confidence inside. And when such some person is there with who keeps the hand over him and who's thinking he likes, that is desire to be magnetized in Calcarea. And they always mm, talks a lot with expansive way about such person. Says, I have overwhelmed by this person. This is always there in my mind. I like this person's thoughts. That is desire to be magnetized. So this is what the Calcarea, which is explained by the Allen, but relationship which he has mentioned has a lot of meaning. Always make a habit of reading the relationship of each and every remedy. Many practical hints are always mentioned in the relationship. So let us see what he says in the relationship. Complementary to belladonna, which is acute of Calcarea. Yes, belladonna, most common complementary of the Calcarea and also a acute of a Calcarea. One more remedy which is acute of Calcarea is Rustox. Both of them, Rustox and belladonna, are acute remedies having 1 to 7 days action. But whenever the Calcarea constitution is there, they generally goes either in belladonna, either in Rustox, either in stramonium. These are acute states which can be developed to the Calcarea person. And that's why if you know the constitution of a person is Calcarea and person's remedy is Calcarea, in acute phase whenever patient comes, if you give a proper complementary, which is there already mentioned, and that cure can be hastened with the help of such complementary. So belladonna is one which he mentions, Rustox is another. Calcarea acts best before the lycopodium, before the nux, before the phosphorus, and before the silica. So remedies that precedes well are lycopodium, nux vomica, phosphorus, and silica. Then which remedy it follows? Nitric acid, pulsatilla, sulfur, especially if the pupils are dilated. So after sulfur, Calcarea is the remedy. You cannot go to the lycopodium after sulfur. There is a trio, Calcarea, lycosulfur. You start with Calcarea, then you have to give lycopodium, then you can go for sulfur. Or if you have started with sulfur, then you cannot give lycopodium, you can give the Calcarea. This trio in this circle, and this is alphabetically. Calcarea comes first, lyco second, sulfur third, again Calcarea. And is followed by Calibichromicum in nasal catarrh. Nasal catarrh, this is one important remedy which covers the chronic states. If there is chronic blockage, then Calcarea plays very vital role. Sambucus in infants is very important remedy. But afterwards, to make it complete, it is too important that we can give a dose of Calcarea and then patient gets cured. So this is too important thing. There is one question by Dr. Prasanna that, sir, can a thin, dark, tall boy be given Calcarea if other symptoms match? Yes, definitely. It doesn't mean that fat, fair, flabby, the child should be fat, fair, flabby. No, it is not always like that. It patient can be having a different constitution, but the Calcarea state also present. You can. It is not fixed entity. Only thing is that fat, fair, flabby are more commonly found to be a Calcarea. One more question asked by Shahrukh is that desires to be magnetized, being with low self-confidence, can we say he desires to have a company always? It's not like that. It depends what type of company it likes. Basically, he likes to be magnetized means he likes to get overwhelmed by the certain peoples. So this fellow, if he goes listen some lecture and he's totally overwhelmed with that, and then it never goes from his mind. He likes, yes, I want to read, I want to listen, I want to ask that fellow, and that remains in his mind. That is what is the desires to be magnetized. So this is too important. Boric says in analysis, use 30th. How many doses? You can repeat for 3-4 days. In Calcarea Carb, you will going to read, it is given in relationship that in children you can repeat, in adults you should not. Calcarea Carb, like or sulfur try is good. Explain more, sir. Okay. According to Hahnemann, Calcarea must not be used before nitric acid and sulfur. Yes, this is truth. They are inimical. Before sulfur, you have to give a lycopodium. Then sulfur comes. So according to Hahnemann, Calcarea must not be used before nitric acid or sulfur. It may produce unnecessary complication if used. So this is one. These are the hints one must grasp and one must utilize. Everything which is mentioned in this relationship has a meaning. And generally, what happens, being a student, we only read those things and forgets about the relationship and forgets about the general modalities, and we never read that. Many times, many hints are given over there, and those hints are very useful in your day-to-day practice. See what is next sentence. In children, it may be often repeated. You can repeat in children, and I used to use. I give it Calcarea Carb 30 to the children who are suffering from such chronic tendency of nasal obstruction or chronic rhinitis, chronic allergic rhinitis. And I used to repeat even for 10 days or so. Because it can be very safely repeated in children. But because what is the reason why he says like that? That is more important. Children, there is a chance to for the growth and development. Calcarea is being a part of the constitution and a very useful part in the children for the growing, for the development. And in such constitutions, if you go on giving the Calcarea, it doesn't produce any problem over there. And that's why in children and in infants, you can repeat the Calcarea. But next sentence, what he says is very important. He says in aged people should not be repeated. See the exactly opposite in aged person, very important. In aged person should not be repeated, especially if first dose benefited, it will usually do harm if you repeat. So in generally old persons, you give 1 or 2 doses, 3 doses, and thereafter stop. Wait for result. You can wait, and you can wait for 10 days, 15 days, because this Calcarea in old person, if you go on repeating, affects, produces an aggravation. So this is the most practical hint explained by Allen over there, and we have to understand this. So Calcarea has many facets which he has mentioned over there. Then the general modalities of the drug. Aggravation. Aggravation by cold air, aggravation by wet weather, aggravation by cold water, aggravation from washing like anti-improved, aggravation in the morning, and aggravation during full moon. In case of Cilicia, we have discussed there is full moon aggravation as well as new moon aggravation. Both things are present in the Cilicia. Here in Calcarea, basically it is more commonly the full moon aggravation is there. So Calcarea Carb and Silica, they are very close to each other at many aspects. Calcarea Carb is one of the remedy which is very, very, very close to the Silicia also, like a lycopodium. And that's why whenever we used to read the Calcarea, we have to read the Silica. That's why we have learned it one after another. And amelioration. Amelioration during dry weather. Amelioration lying on painful side like bryonia. In bryonia, it is better by pressure. That's why lying on painful side, bryonia, it is better. In Kalikap, it is exactly opposite modality. Both remedies, bryonia and Kalikap, stitching type of pain, but modalities are opposite. In bryonia lying on right side or painful side ameliorates. In Kalikab, it is aggravates. So Kalikab always lies on opposite side. Bryonia lies on same side, like a pulsatina. So this is what the Calcarea Carbonicum, which is explained by Allen, and he has given, in fact, much more things in order to explain the Calcarea Carb. So we have to understand the depth of Calcarea Carb, open the boric sumatra medica, and see the last remedy relationship. You will find over there though two complementary. One complementary is belladonna and second complementary is rustox. Both are acute in action. And see the action of the remedy. It is 60 days. Very deep acting remedy, very deep acting polycretion. So Calcarea is a very wonderful remedy in our day-to-day practice. And very often we prescribe the Calcarea in our children's OPD. Pediatric OPD, it plays very vital role. And on that day, I have explained that Dr. Paul Herskew, he has mentioned Calcarea as first remedy in his book. Nearly, he has written the 44 pages about the Calcarea carb over there. So these are very important things one must understand regarding the remedy. So we have touched many aspects of Calcarea through the Allen's and through my cases, which we have discussed. Tomorrow we'll start with another remedy. But before that, if any queries are there, questions are there, I'm definitely happy to explain you or to give the answers. There is one more question by Prasuna. Sir, exclusive difference between the Calcarea carb and silica, please. Calcarea carb and silica, already we have discussed. That's why we have discussed them very easily, one after the another. Silica is weak, emaciated, generally having a tubercular constitution, psychosyphilitic remedy. Calcarea is purely a soric remedy. Both of them having defective assimilation, but in one, that is in Calcarea, it affects the bones only, being not affecting the flesh, and flesh always remains over there. In silica, it affects the flesh, that's why they becomes weak. They remains emaciated. Both of them remedies for the constipation, but in case of Calcarea, it enjoys the constipation. Silicia suffers from the constipation. Silicia, in fact, because of constipation, produces hemorrhoids, produces the fistulas. That those syphilitic entities or pathological entities are quite common over there in silica. Calcarea carb, we have very much functional symptoms or soric symptoms. In silicia, we get more pathological symptoms. That's why psychosyphilitic features, which you can get very easily with silica. Calcarea is Calcarea is also having less confidence. Silicia is also having a less confidence. Silicia never faces, never goes on stage. Very cowardice in that nature. But at the same time, very firm with their thoughts, haughty, we can say. Calcarea are not like that. Calcarea are insecure mentally and physically. But once they goes and they tries, they expresses. So there are many more differences which you can very easily differentiate. One more time you read the Allen and you can find it out many more. Can we use 0/1 in children? Yes, definitely. Why not? Depending upon what situation you are using. In LM, you can repeat even in adults also. Even in aged also you can repeat. Many times you can repeat in ageds.
One question, sir. One question, sir.
Yes.
Sir, many times Calcarea carb, lycopodium, sulfur, this trio is used and it is being said 11 days gap, 11 days gap, something. What is the importance where this trio is actually used? We want to know.
What happens whenever the person's disease develops? It never develops in a single layer. It is there since long time. There are hereditary factors. That is what is myosomes with which the person is brought on. There were many layers of the disorders with which the patient has developed. And when patient comes to us, his constitution is not of a single remedy. His constitution is made up of many remedies, out of which these three, the calcarea, lycopodium, and sulfur, all these elements are very, very much markedly become these parts of human constitution. Single remedy never covers the chronic states in such patients where all three are present. And then we cannot mix them together. So it should be utilized in a proper way. So once you give the lycopodium, then you can go for sulfur. Lycopodium being a plant, still it contains more amount of silica. And that's why lycopodium becomes a constitutional remedy. So after lycopodium, whatever is remaining can be covered with sulfur. After sulfur, whatever is remaining will be covered by the calcarea. And that's why this trio always works in such types of cases. So one important thing which we have to take into consideration in this is that these three requires to complete the cure. But it should be in proper sequence. And that sequence is calcarea lycosulfur or sulfur calcarea lyco, whatever it may be. Whatever you starts first, then you have to go for the another. But this is the sequence should be calcarea lycosulfur calcarea. So these three remedies completes the whole constitution, not only a single remedy. And that's why this trio is always useful in practice.
We can give calcarea carb, lycopodium, sulfur, again calcarea carb.
Yes, if needed, if the things are still, per patient requires calcarea, you can go for calcarea again. Yes, definitely.
Why the days, some number of days is given, no? That days we have to live.
No. It depends. It varies from person to person. It has been mentioned by the Gibson Miller that it acts for 60 days, but these are the things only collected on the experience, how many days the symptoms of the remedy were getting proved. On the basis of that, it has been mentioned. But every patient who comes to you is a different patient. Everyone's susceptibility is different, everyone's miasm is different, everyone's constitution is different. And that's why the action of remedy never remains to be 60 days in each and every patient. Sometimes patient might require remedy even after 15 days. And sometimes even might not require that remedy for 6 months also. This varies. This is individual variation. And that's why ultimately you have to check and recheck it whenever patient comes for follow-up. During follow-up, you must judge, is it really necessary to give the remedy again? Whether it again still indicates the calcarea. If it still indicates the calcarea, you go for calcarea. If it indicates that some other remedy, the state changes, that can be possibility. And you can go for another remedy. So this is also possible.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So that's all for today. We'll meet tomorrow with some new remedy. I will let you know which remedy I will going to take so that we can start. I don't know, lycopodium is there for second year. Is it there, like lycopodium for second year BHMS syllabus? If anyone from second year is there.
Yes, sir, it is present, sir, lycopodium.
I'm not getting your voice clearly.
Sir, it is there, sir. In second year, it is present.
Yes, then if it is there, we'll start with the lycopodium tomorrow, because lycopodium is another polyphase one must learn. That is, and that this trio we can finish, so that it will become clear in your mind regarding all three remedies, the calcarea, lycosulfur. Okay. So that's all for today. Thank you being there. We'll meet tomorrow with the philosophy session. I always appeal to you, attend the philosophy, because once philosophy is good, then you can practice very nicely in homeopathy. So thanks a lot. We'll meet tomorrow. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good night.